Welcome, everyone, to our program this evening, From Investigative Reporter to Master Teacher. First, we'd like to thank AAUW Illinois for the grant that allows us to do these online programs. We also want you to consider joining the AAUW Jane Addams branch. If you're already a member, you can become a dual member of our branch. If you're interested in membership, put a note in the chat box and we'll follow up with you. Use the chat window for any questions or technical issues. Please remember to stay muted during the program, since we will be recording the program tonight and posting the recording on the Jane Addams website about a week after the program. And now it's my pleasure to introduce our speaker, Alba Mendiola. She began her studies at the College Tecnológico de Monterrey, Mexico in 1994, and earned a Bachelor of Science degree in communication. She then became an Emmy Award-winning investigative reporter at Telemundo Spanish language TV network. She currently teaches broadcast journalism, public speaking, and Spanish at the Cristo Rey Jesuit High School. She's also a graduate student in the Master of Arts in Teaching at the University of Illinois at Chicago. And she is a 2021-22 recipient of an AAUW Career Development grant. In her spare time, she advocates for media literacy, Spanish language arts, and journalism careers for Latinas. It's my pleasure to introduce Alba.
Thank you, Eileen. Thank you very much for the invitation. I'm very honored to be here, and especially that I received this grant. It is definitely is helping me tremendously, and I want to thank all the members for making this happen. And I just want to share my story so you know that that with your money and when your support, you are actually changing lives too. So I'm going to share my screen with you. Hold on 1 second. Can you see my screen now?
Yes.
Perfect. All right. So I always make this, from the newsroom to the classroom. I was a television reporter for almost 18 years in Mexico and in Telemundo, Chicago. But I just want to tell you a little bit about my story. I was born and raised in the town of Poza Rica in the state of Veracruz in Mexico. You see a very blurry photo of me, being carrying a little monkey and a pig on the back. So that was my very, very very happy childhood growing up in Poza Rica, Veracruz. It's an oil town. So my parents, both of my parents, my grandparents, my uncles, my aunts, they all worked in the oil industry. The Mexican government owns that the industry. So they all worked for that, and I have to say that I was very blessed because we had the chance. My parents had the chance to send me to college, which is not easy sometimes with many families in Mexico. So here's me again, and I want to talk a little bit about my dad's radio, because he gave me some radio very similar to that, like 6-band, when I was probably 10 or 11. He says like, oh, maybe you want to give a good use of this radio. And I have to say that radio really changed my life, because I was fascinated listening to different part of the world. I remember I was able to listen to the BBC of London in Spanish, broadcasting in all Latin America. And I was listening different accents, Spanish accents from Argentina and from Colombia, from Panama. And I was fascinated with that. Like, how come I'm here in the small town of Veracruz, being able to listen to other people around the world? So I think from that on, it really made me feel that I want to be doing the same thing. I was able to go to Monterrey. So that's a big city. And I studied science of communication there. And I graduated in 1994. Before I graduated, I had the opportunity to study abroad in Spain. So the picture on the bottom is that Universidad Pontificia Comillas. I was there for a summer, but then I wanted to continue. I love traveling. That was a big change in my life. So I decided to spend 1 year abroad in England, so where I learned English as a second language. When I came back, no job, right? Like, what am I gonna do now? I did other jobs. I work as a public relations in a public relations office. I work in the tourist industry. Then I was able to get a job first in the writing the news in the local station in TV Azteca, Veracruz, in my home state. And then, like in the movies, right? Like, oh, we don't have a reporter. Could you please, somebody can go out. So they spot me and I said, like, you go. And I went and I stayed since then. So I wasn't really planning to be on camera, but the circumstances, asked for it, and I stayed since then. So I worked 2 years in TV Azteca Veracruz as an anchor and reporter. And it was quite an experience, right? At that time, that was 1996, I was making $300 a month. That's how much, a TV anchor in the local industry was making. So you can imagine how it was not a good salary. I remember my mom says, like, do you have enough for the rent to pay the bills? And sometimes it's like, no, I don't. Can you help me? I need a good jacket. I need to get, everything for my job. And yeah, so they helped me tremendously. Otherwise, I wouldn't been able to continue in that career. Fast forward, I met the American, right? And then the love came, and that's how I came to the United States. If you find me in the website for the career development, you will see me as Dylan. That is my family name. So and that's my husband, and that's my son, and my daughter Sophia. My son is right now in Europe. He's studying abroad, and my daughter, she's a sophomore in high school. When I came, of course, I always say, because I was known as Alba Mendiola in the television in Mexico. And then I came here, and then you do the whole immigration thing. And I was asked, like, how do you want to change your name? And I said, like, should I? And I said, well, when you go to Rome, you do what the Romans do. So I did change my name legally. But then I went back to television here in the United States, and I kept Mendiola. So I know it's kind of confusing. I always say that I'm a better. I feel that now that I'm a teacher, sounds better to say Señora Mendiola, right? Like for Latina. So when I came to Chicago, the first thing I didn't do anything on television. I did a volunteer year with a program. It's called Amate House, where we were teaching adults to a job readiness program. And it was fascinating to me because I left the television to come here, and I was doing more like a non-for-profit work, and I loved it. I love teaching. And I also taught one course in UIC. I taught Spanish at UIC, but it's always that bug, right? Like the journalism bug. I really thought that I was going to stay in the academics, but then, it came back. So I wanted to go back to do journalism. So in 2001, I got my job as a television reporter in Telemundo Chicago. This is a site, this is when the Mexican president Vicente Fox came to Pilsen. So I had to do the live shot from there. But I worked in Telemundo for 16 years. And I just want to show you a few photos. You see me there with Carol Maureen and Marian Ahern. We did together in 2015 a show in English, in the NBC5, The Race for Mayor. Carol Maureen did the whole interview with Chuy Garcia and Ram Emanuel, and I was in the audience asking questions from the audience and also to the candidates as well. So that was a great experience working also in Spanish. I did my 16 years, but I also worked a few stories for the NBC 5. And those are some of my colleagues that I had around the same time. I'm very blessed to say that I've been nominated more than 10 times for the Regional Emmy Awards, which I actually got 7 times. And it's just amazing how to see that at some point, the Academy is starting to look at Spanish televisions. So we are very blessed to be recognized, I think, because we were competing with English stations. So I got a few for the best reporter. I got one for investigative story about a man who was in death penalty, and he was eventually released. Stories about the Latino community. And you name it, I've done it. I've done a lot, different stories. Here's a few photos of me, what people I interview. President, well, you see a few there. From Ecuador, Bill Clinton and Chuy Garcia, Pat Quinn. There's just a few. I was also in charge of the political stories that they were going to. So every election I had to do a story. I always regret that I had the chance I actually interview Barack Obama when he was running for president, and I never took a picture with him. So I always regret that I don't have one. Here's me in the newsroom, right? Looking pretty, right? That's how the industry wants you. And it was so very stressful, very, very stressful for me. I always say that sometimes, you put things in perspective and you try to balance home, with the kids and your career. And sometimes it's not easy and it's very demanding because you can, the audience in general wants to see you, doing the story, but at the same time, it's a lot of running around. So always in the back of my mind, I always loved teaching because I did it before I did Telemundo. My favorite part of reporting was mentoring the interns. And I always tell them, like, if you don't learn something new every day, so you're not doing your job. You have to feel that if to stay and you feel that you're not learning something new, then it's not gonna make you move forward. And that's what I always love. Like they call me La Maestra Mendiola. Like, oh, go with Alba because she's gonna help you, develop, your demo tape or whatever you need. And that was the best part of my job. So at some point, of course, as a television personality, they invited me to go to schools. So one day I was invited to go to be the principal for the day in one of the schools in Elgin. And that's what I like after I quit, because, I decided to quit Telemundo and it was my decision in 2016. I decided that it was time for me because, like I said, it was very stressful, but at the same time, I really need to listen to my heart. And education was always in my heart. And I decided to quit. And that's the main question that a lot of people ask me. Why did you quit? Isn't it? And what I tell the students is like, you have to decide what success is. Is it being famous and sign autographs? Is it winning 1, 2, 3, 7 Emmys? Is it money? What is it for you? And at the time for me, it was not fulfilling the need of me, like I need to feel that I'm doing something for the community too. So long story short, I decided to quit on a Thursday. I went to pick up my stuff on a Friday. Monday was a day off. It was a holiday, and I was teaching on Tuesday. That's how quick I made my move, and it wasn't very easy, as you can imagine. Like, I start teaching at a school that is no longer open, Gary Prep. That was my first school, and I loved it. Like the fact that I had to be with the students, and at the beginning I was teaching Spanish. Now I'm teaching broadcasting journalism, but I loved it, and I think I felt that was my place to be. Now, like I said, I'm teaching broadcasting journalism to my students at Cristo Rey Jesuit High School. As you see here, some of the girls, I love this picture because this is the first time ever they have a professional camera in their hands, and they're looking at it. It's fascinating just to see how excited they can get, and I just want to spark something in them. You can be a photographer, you can be, whatever you want. I was recently talking to one of my old colleagues from Telemundo, and he is the union steward, not the steward, the secretary from one of the technical and engineers in Telemundo Chicago. And he was telling me that they're trying to promote women to be behind the cameras. Because yes, like I always tell my students, when you see a personality on TV, you see a reporter or an anchor, there are 50 people behind the camera. They have an equal same important job as you're doing, because doesn't matter if your hair looks perfect, if your makeup looks perfect, but if the camera is not working, you won't be on air. So I always tell them, think about that. And so he was telling me they're trying to promote more women in the engineering side of the television industry. And I said, listen, I have a bunch of girls in my class. So it's about maybe we can collaborate. Maybe you can have the funds for me to teach journalism. So we are in talks. We're talking about it. But like I said, it's very exciting. It's very fulfilling for me to see girls and boys also wanted to be in the industry. And like I mentioned, like it was mentioned before, when I quit Telemundo, I wanted to be a teacher, and I wanted the people to understand that I was doing this for real. And so I decided to register at UIC to get my Master's of Art in Teaching Spanish. And I'm already halfway through. And as you can tell, as you can imagine, well, the salary from a reporter is not the same as the salary from a teacher. But I was committed, and UIC was good at promoting all the different grants and fellowships and programs they have. So I found the AAUW information, and I immediately start looking, and I said, this look good. I think I can qualify. So I don't know if I'm going to, get this money or not, but I'm just going to try. So that was in November of, not this year, the year before, when I applied. And one of the other things that I also do with Tecnológico de Monterrey, which is my alma mater from Mexico, I have to say very proudly that Tecnológico de Monterrey is one of the, if not the one, but one of the most recognized private universities in Mexico. So there's a chapter of alums here in Chicago, and we fundraise and help pay for some of the students who wants to attend our college in Mexico, and we've been very successful because they're alums all over the world. So we try to collectively try to get a grant for students to go, and that also really, I love doing that because it's so necessary. As many people know, sometimes students don't have the funds here in the United States. In Mexico, it's even more difficult. So I'm happy to help promoting and also helping some students. And well, here's I'm in the directory. You know, if you find me, if you want to look for more information about me, the Career Development Grant, as you can see, I'm under Dylan, but I took my name back, so I'm a Mendiola now. And I just want to tell you a story to end this, and then I'm just going to open for questions. When I applied, I told you 2 years ago, I applied in November, and I felt very, strongly like, I think I can do this. But sometimes just like, oh my God, I really hope I get this money. It will be very important for me. It will help me. My son is in college now, and it's not easy. And so I remember they said, oh, don't call, they will let you know in April 15th, I think that was last year. So I didn't call, didn't do anything. I was just waiting. And I'm very spiritual too. I mean, I work in a Catholic school and I'm very spiritual. And the day before the announcement on the 14th, I was just like, oh God, please give me a sign, something just to feel good that I'm getting this money. And I'm not kidding. This is a true story. An hour later, I get a phone call from the college counseling, and they say, hey, Alba, we need your help. And I said, yes, what's going on? Well, we have a senior. It's a girl who is getting a full ride to go to the University of Illinois in Champaign. She's going to get paid for everything. But we have a little problem. And I said, what's the problem? And she said, well, her family, it's a little bit intimidated, or they feel like, oh, our little niña, right? Like our baby is leaving and she can't just stay here in Chicago. We can pay for a community college and she can stay here with us. And, but she's getting full ride to go to this business program in the University of Illinois. And they gave me the name of this girl. And I remember she was in my sophomore year. And we read this book. I don't know if you read like Water for Chocolate, Como Agua para Chocolate. And we have a very good discussion about the Latino culture. And sometimes we as Latinos, and we're so proud, family is so important, and there's nothing wrong with it. But we also talk about things that we're putting in front of us. They're not letting us, move forward of what we want. And one of the things is that many families feel that the girls have to stay home. I mean, maybe go to college, but, closer to home because, the world is dangerous and we need to protect them. So we talk about that. And I don't know, I sparked something in that girl that she remembered me. And she wanted me to be in the meeting with her parents and the counselor, because she said, if my parents listen to Miss Mendiola, maybe they will be more open. And I said, absolutely, I'll be in that meeting. So this is the sign for me. It's like, this is it. So next morning, I'm sleeping, I'm waiting. And then I get this email, right? For like 5 o'clock or 6 o'clock in the morning from the AAUW. Congratulations, you got your money. And I'm like, oh my God, this is for real. Thank you, God. And then that afternoon, I had the meeting with the parents. And I told them, I was just honest with them. And I said, listen, I'm a mom, I'm a Latina, and I know how you feel, but you have to let go. You have to let the girls, being independent. The best thing that happened to me, it was when I went to study abroad. And I have to say, my mom was the one. My mom didn't finish college. My mom just finished, had maybe a little bit, maybe a year or two in high school. And then she took a job. She worked since she was 16 in an office. So, but she always was there, whatever training they needed to do. And she was promoted, and she believed that college was important for me. And she says, I love you very much, but you're not staying in Costa Rica. You're going there. So I try to talk to the parents and of this girl, and I think I made a difference. And this girl is now in college. I'm very proud of her, and we are very proud of her and Cristo Rey. And I think it could be possible. And that's what I've been doing. That's my story, and I hope inspire you and continue supporting the organization. And I hope, and again, I cannot thank you enough for this grant that I received. That just for the future, I'm going to next next year in the spring of 2023. I'm doing my student teaching. I'm very happy where I am right now at Cristo Rey. If an opportunity opens, I don't know, maybe. But so far, I've been very, very happy to be a not-for-profit. That the mission is more important to me, and I think they pay fairly for teachers. And if I have the chance to continue doing what I'm doing, I will definitely stay there the longest I can. So thank you so much again, and thank you, Eileen and Kate, for inviting me in this. And I'm just going to open for questions. I don't know if I went too long, but I'm going to just open for questions if you have any.
Well, that was perfect. We have plenty of time for questions. We've got comments. Great story. Someone earned their BA at UIC, and the Riverside branch is congratulating you on your award. Here's a question. What are you most proud of during your 16 years of reporting that first career?
Thank you for the question. It was in 2003 when I got my first award as a best reporter. That was definitely the one that made me feel like, okay, this is real. And I did many, many stories. It was a collage of different stories. But the one that I feel the most proud of is that story about the death penalty case. This man, he was accused of a crime that he, literally didn't commit, and he was in jail for 18, 20 years. He was free after 20 years. And just to listen to his story and what happened to him is so compelling. He was arrested, and one of the police officers who arrested him completely changed the story. Just because of his confession, he confessed, but he says that he was coerced and he was beaten to confess. And there was no DNA evidence in his case, only his own confession, and a woman that says, the woman who actually did commit the crime. So that's one of the stories that I got fascinated in when I started my career in Telemundo Chicago, because I got involved in all of these death penalty cases. That was just one of them, but I did plenty. The same police officer who coerced this man isn't mentioned in more than a dozen of other cases. The city of Chicago has paid millions of dollars because they were accused wrongfully. So yeah, that was something very, devastating for just to meet them and see how they're going through. It was quite an experience for me.
And it certainly has long-ranging impact as well on the other cases.
Yes, I do. Yeah, I mentioned all the different cases, and I mentioned his case in particular. I actually interviewed another man he was released and deported. I went to Mexico City to do an interview with him. That is one. I mean, I was there also in terms of politics. I was there when Obama was at Grand Park. It was very emotional. My photographer he's an African-American man, and I was just looking at him, everybody crying. It's like, I'm crying. Like, it was quite an experience to be there, like, in history making. So that's another one that I'm very excited to, very, very nice to know that I was part of it.
Do you think you'll miss being on the cutting edge of news events?
Well, that's another question people ask me. And I always say what I regret about quitting Telemundo is that I didn't do earlier. because I feel right now, I mean, I'm 51 years old. And I know, it could be like you're still young, but I just feel that I have so much things that I want to do in the academics that I feel I don't have time for it. So yeah, I wish I had done that earlier. I sometimes, yeah, miss like writing. Writing is the part that I miss. I'm in some talks to some newspapers for me to write some op-eds like once a month, because as you can imagine, I'm very, very busy, full-time job, going to school, mom and wife and myself. Also, I have to take care of myself. So yeah, I don't have much time, but I would still want to do that. I also am working on a book. It's an not investigative, it's a historical novel that I want to write. um, and I only do that in the summers when I have the time to be in a nice cabin in front of the lake with a glass of wine. So I'm not in a rush of finishing that book, but I do want to, move forward with that, because it's a story about a Mexican consul who was here in the Chicago area at the end of the 1800s, beginning of the 1900s. Can you imagine, at that time, his daughter died of an abortion in 1906. So I've done tons of research, and it's a fascinating story. This consul's father was the general in the Cinco de Mayo battle. So it's a very, very elite family. And to hear that happened to one of his daughters is very interesting for me now, after so many years, right? Over 100 years. But I want to write something without all that information. But like I said, I'm just taking the time. Maybe after I finish my master's, I can dedicate more time to that.
It certainly sounds like a book we might be interested in reading.
Well, thank you. I'll try to make it interesting.
Another question, what kinds of advice would you give to young women who might consider a career in journalism? For example, did you encounter sexual harassment or unreasonable demands when you're the person on camera?
Yes, yeah, absolutely. It is somehow in this. Some of you maybe have seen the movie Bombshell, and when I watched that movie, it's just like, yeah, that's exactly what it is. Personally, I was never like sexually assaulted or sexually harassed in that way. But I have to say that there are some things in the industry, not necessarily done by men or the industry in general, but I will say those are demands because of the audience. The audience are the ones who demand that you have to look certain way, because people will call and they will say, you've been wearing that dress too many times, or that necklace doesn't go well, or your hair is messy. They will call. So I will say, and also it's a little bit of what I call a little bit of toxic femininity among the women that worked in the industry as well. A lot of competition, but at the same time, there's good and the bad, right? Like, there are people and women who are there to support you. I try to be that person, and all the interns I had, I always tell them, there's always going to be somebody who's prettier than you, or you know more intelligent than you, or is going to be smarter than you. So you have to know how to go around with that. Um, so it depends how you see it. But I hear stories about sexual harassment, definitely. And yeah, it's something that it needs to be seen and understand, and women have to be aware of that, and they need to be strong to, demanding what they feel it's fair for them to do. If you want to wear your pants, not a dress, because that was one of the, you got to wear a dress. Oh, I don't want to wear a dress. I want to wear pants. So there's so many things like that that can also, you have to stand up for yourself and fight it.
Regarding the application process for the grant, if you were in charge of the program, is there any change you would suggest?
Oh boy. I honestly, I went and applied, and I was so naive. I don't know. I never applied for a grant in my life. I mean, I went to school, and I thank God my parents helped me out with paying my college, but I have to admit, I wasn't the greatest student. I was not the straight A students, never. I was more like the average C student. So for me, going and apply was like a new experience. And I have to say that the process was easy. I understood everything that I needed to submit, and I got all the information. And it's been very good experience for me, without any issues at all. So I don't know. I wouldn't change anything. I actually was the one who reached out to, when I knew that I had this grant, I started reaching out to people like, who should I say thank you to? Because I didn't know who was giving me this money. It was so overwhelming for me. And I'm so happy that Kate actually picked up my, she was the one like, who are you? Like, I am actually a grantee, and I want to be part of this, because I really want to thank everybody who made this happen for me.
Well, I know many branches, there were probably 12 or 15 different branches and individuals that have contributed to this fund. And the fund is established, and then the interest provides the grants every year. So
Yeah.
it is a well-established program. And one of the comments from Indianapolis, they hosted for AAUW fellowship recipients that are studying in Indiana. And so they had a similar program to ours, but the fellowships are for graduate study, and it encourages women to keep going in their education, encouraging lifelong or life-changing experiences or fellowships, gaining more education. So that is a key part of AAUW from the very beginning.
Yeah. Well, I'm trying to promote as much as I can at UIC. People I know, my classmates. It's been quite challenging right now. Sometimes, we had some classes online. Sometimes I've been in the campus, but I will promote it as much as I can.
Great. When do you expect to complete your degree? Did you have a
that will
target
be
date?
Yes. So I have one more year. My student teaching will be the spring of 2023. And next year in the spring is when I'm going to graduate.
So after the student teaching, then you graduate. And your goal is then to get your teaching certificate?
Yes, I'm getting the master's in teaching Spanish, and I'm also getting the PEL, which is the license. Right now, I'm able to teach at Cristo Rey because it's a private school, so they don't require a license, but they do prefer if you have it. So that's what I'm doing. And also, if I eventually decide to go to a public school, that is needed. And especially now that you've seen a lot of people are quitting any job, right? Like the great resignation, they call it, and teachers are overwhelmed too. And there's so much need for teachers. But I just realized, I mean, I did so many stories about education, and now that I'm going through the process, I just realized there's a lot of hoops that teachers have to jump in order to get that certificate, and things that are really, in my opinion, not necessary to go through. Just like if you make the path easier, I think more people will probably apply to be teachers. It's just a matter of getting the right information, so they will decide to be teachers.
Mhm. Well, to do that, we need to be active with our legislators and
Yeah.
people in Springfield and board members. But that
Yes.
certainly
Yeah,
is a good
absolutely.
suggestion.
Yeah, I'm also getting some funds from the Minority Teachers of Illinois, from the state. They also give funds.
Mhm.
And what I noticed, like especially with my students, I try to tell them, listen, the money is out there. You just need to take the time to look for it and take the time to apply for grants. Sometimes it's so overwhelming that because it takes time to get it done, and sit down and write that essay, sit down and complete and get all your papers that you need to submit. It takes time, but if you are committed and do it, there are good things out there for you. So I always said, if you have any idea, okay, you want this, come and just talk to me. I'll give you a letter of recommendation, something that will help you, get that money you want. I'm reading Sarah Remarker. Thank you so much. It's so nice. I'm glad that I'm making you feel good tonight. Thank you so much. And then she asked, do you like teaching the Spanish more than the media? I will say both. I love all the students at Cristo Rey are what are called heritage speakers. So they're the simultaneous bilinguals. They are all are from my primarily Mexican immigrant families, but I have some Colombians, I have some Puerto Ricans, and they learn Spanish at home. And so their Spanish, when they speak, are very fluent. What we help them is to write better, to do the reading comprehension. We read full books and very complex text, and I make them write essays. So the Spanish I teach is not for a second language. It's more like Spanish language arts. It's like the same way you have English class, well, we have a Spanish class, and they are taking in the same importance. So because these are simultaneous bilinguals. So I love the Spanish class. I just started teaching broadcasting journalism this school year as an elective, and I'm so happy. And that's what I love my school, because they gave me the opportunity to do that. And the public speaking class for freshmen, I adore those kids. Oh my God. I mean, can you imagine, like, everybody, public speaking is not easy for anybody, right? Like this is a life lesson for them. Like you're gonna learn this for life. And my school is a dual language, so we do sometimes in Spanish, sometimes in English. For not in the Spanish class, of course, the Spanish is all Spanish, but for the public speaking class and for the broadcasting class, I do dual language. So sometimes we read stories in English and sometimes we read stories in Spanish. And for the public speaking class, they do speeches in English and Spanish, and debates as well. So it's fantastic. I love what I do.
It seems like your two careers support each other. The background of
Exactly.
having the reporting and the media experience then prepares you to be an expert in
Yeah.
providing that broadcast journalism class to high
Yeah.
school students.
Yeah, absolutely. And then it just like going back to my days at Telemundo, like after doing a live shot from, I don't know, Waukegan, right? Like somewhere really far away, you're driving back and you're with your colleague photographer, and I start daydreaming, what's my dream job? Like I'll be very happy if I can teach. Maybe, yeah, on the side I can do some journalistic work, and that's fine. But if I will be teaching, that will be my ultimate, my dream job. And that was a couple years ago, and now I'm doing it, and I feel like complete.
Well, it's great to be helping you do that. And it's
Well,
good
yeah,
to,
thank you. Yes. Mhm.
it's certainly good to hear good news this week.
Yes.
Let's see. Are there any other questions for Alba? There's a lot of thank yous for being such a wonderful advocate for AAUW's program. Great story.
And I'm going to type, I'm going to type my my email at UIC. So if anyone wants to reach out, feel free to do that. Here is my email.
Well, I know Kate has mentioned the Dare to Dream conference that AAUW has coordinated for several years. The most recent years, COVID has sort of disrupted that, but where we are inviting middle school girls to consider having a career, attending college, and helping the parents at the same time understand how you get, the funds necessary to go to college and how you prepare to let your daughter go to college, and perhaps how you encourage your daughter to consider, a
Yeah,
goal that her parents might not have been able to
yeah,
achieve. So
exactly.
that certainly is something that if we have an in-person event, maybe next year, that I could see you being a star performer in the mentor
Thank you.
kind of role there.
I'll be happy to go. Any, like, whatever, any kind of event that I have to promote or, inspire some girls, I'll be there immediately. No problem. I'm also in LinkedIn and Twitter, and for that one, I'm as Alba Mendiola. You can find me there if you want to follow, or send me a message. I'm in there. I'll be happy to connect.
And we have one other question. Have you thought about community college teaching?
I have, but for that, I need my master's. I mean, everything
Right.
goes down to getting the
One step
master's.
at a time.
Exactly. And also, like I said, you'll be surprised, but like, of course, for college, you need a PhD. Like I said, I don't know if I will have enough life to go through a PhD right now. But for a lecturer, you'll be surprised. I'd probably be making more money now than I'll be making as a lecturer in a college, unfortunately. So I really don't know what it's like in a community college. But if that's the case, if I see something interesting, I will definitely consider. I love teaching. I'm not like, for little kids, like kindergartners, they're so cute, and little first graders, those are not for me. I'm more like high school up.
Right. Or middle school, when they can get
Yeah,
excited
middle
and then
school.
envisioning themselves as something new and different than perhaps what their parents
Yeah.
have achieved. They
And
have to see someone as a role model that
yeah,
looks like them and they made it. So maybe they'll consider that career as well.
yeah. One of the things I forgot to mention, but it's amazing how the new generations because they are all in their phones, right? They have no idea what a landline phone is. They don't know what it was like to wait at 5 o'clock for your show, right? Like everything it's online now. And when I tell them this to my seniors, there's like, really? You had to wait? What if you miss your show? Like, well, if you were lucky to have a VHS, you can record it. But back then, sometimes in Mexico, we didn't have like, well, I eventually had one, but you miss your show. And they're like, oh, really? Wow. They just couldn't pictures. There's so many things they don't where, and sometimes they tell me, is this true? It's like, where are you getting your news from? Like, you got to get a reliable source, and let's talk about that. Like, it's so important now to teach new generations
All
to
right.
how to be consumers for news. They just don't know, and they just pick whatever is on the internet and they retweet it, right? Or they will Instagram it or whatever, TikTok it, whatever
Right.
they do. So it
Right.
is so important in to teach that.
Media literacy. I was going to
Media
ask
literacy,
how you,
exactly. Do you know about the News Literacy Project? Yes, I actually took a workshop last summer. The Northwestern University did a workshop for teachers who teach media literacy, and we got some very good workshops from the News Literacy Project. I actually have a unit is from a website they call Checology. They have one unit in Spanish, and I use it all the time. And they have other amazing resources there. Um, I have to say that most of the stuff there, of course, we're in the United States, it's in English, but we still have to work with the Spanish materials. It's so difficult to find. What I do is like I take few things and I translate it in Spanish, but the market is there. I think, people around the world are getting news, and students need to learn how to be a consumers of news. So I think there is a potential there that they need to develop more materials and teach teachers in Mexico and Colombia and in Spain, whatever the Spanish language is spoken, so they can also teach those kids. Here I'm doing it, and also like their parents, they get the
mhm.
news. If Telemundo and Univision and all those news organizations are big, there's like big Spanish market. It's because they are audience, and they need to learn like how some they just don't know how to consume news.
Here's another question. Are you able to connect your students to internships in TV?
How do you get an internship in TV? They're
Well,
always open.
with your connections, are you able to make the
Yeah,
link?
yes, well, I have some folks, like friends that they still working in television, and I always say like, hey, when the internship season start? Normally it's in the summer, and then in the fall they also do. So when I get students who are interested, I immediately connect them with my contacts that I have. And yeah, I remember when I was in Telemundo, I had an intern, and I helped them get grants too. I wrote letters of recommendations for them and say like, you have to apply for for different organizations that they were giving grants.
Great. Well, I'm not seeing any more questions. We certainly appreciate you sharing your story and spending time with us tonight. Thank
Well,
you
thank you for
again.
the invitation. Thank you all, and I appreciate that you are consider me for this. Like I said, it's been a pleasure, and I feel honored. And please feel free to any of you reach out, and if you have any ideas or if you want any connections, like schools or TV, whatever it is that I can help out, I'll be more than happy to do it.
Well, thank you so much.
Thank you.